What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my little corner of heaven, where today I'll be giving you guys my complete review of Deadpool 2. Now be warned, there's quite a few spoilers ahead, so as I said in my last video, if you haven't seen the movie I'm about to review, please leave the video, get in your car, go to the movie theater, watch Deadpool 2, and then be sure to come back because I'll still be here waiting patiently for you guys. Anyway, let's get started. Anyway, first I want to talk a little bit about the plot. So, one thing I will say is that I did not expect the movie to begin the way that it did, but I'm happy that the beginning credits acknowledged what we were all thinking when it actually happened. See, even though most of us went in expecting nothing but laughs, it was definitely unexpected that the film would get so dark at some moments, but that's what made it much less predictable, which was awesome. Now, what really helped make it believable was how the magical powers of plot armor didn't actually work this time. They didn't bring back Vanessa. They didn't bring back the love interest from the dead, and that's a power move that we don't typically see being made in superhero movies. Unless you count the post-credits scene as canon, but even then, it doesn't confirm that she's alive at the end of the movie. Now, I'm probably off the mark by saying this, but I think there were two goals for this movie. The first was just pure, unfiltered entertainment, because everyone knows that Deadpool isn't really a man on a mission, just some anti-hero without any code or direction who just happens to be super obsessed with chimichangas. And two, it was to set us up for the next Deadpool movie. I mean, Cable even said near the ending that he has plans to stick around, so that's just a dead giveaway that we'll probably see him again in some other sequence, some other movie, so I don't know. I will say that it definitely didn't leave a lasting impression on me, but once again, I don't think the film was meant to do that in the first place, because there didn't seem to be any hidden or deeper meaning to the film, and because of that, I was pretty happy with the playful tone that it had in the closing scene. And no, I'm not talking about the little afterlife sequence with Vanessa, but I'm talking about when Cable saves Deadpool by using his last energy source for time travel. Now, I really don't think I'd be able to sleep at night if I didn't mention my own thoughts about the acting and the characters in the movie. Once again, Ryan Reynolds stole the entire show. It's honestly as if he was born to play Deadpool. And with only a few minor exceptions, he executed Deadpool's one-liners so flawlessly that he could even make some of the darker scenes somewhat lighthearted. Even some of the pop culture references, while somewhat random, were carried out the right way at precisely the right times, so we could be reminded not to take some of the darker scenes too seriously. Also, it was easy to tell that he knew when to take on a more serious tone, particularly in his scenes with Morena Baccarin. Because of this attention to detail, their romantic relationship felt more genuine, making it easier for the audience to feel Wade Wilson's pain as he held Vanessa's lifeless body in his arms after the shootout in their apartment. And then there's Cable. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't know much about Cable going into this movie. I never really got into the New Mutants comics as a kid, so I never got the chance to read about his background. But yet somehow Josh Brolin's performance made it seem as if I already knew everything about Cable and his really gruff and kind of off-putting demeanor. And I really do think that says a lot about his abilities as an actor, so hats off to him for sure. I was also quite impressed with Domino. I didn't really go into this movie with many expectations for that character. And sure, the film didn't really dig into her background, but it was still pretty enjoyable to see how her quote-unquote abilities shaped the outcomes of Deadpool's confrontations with Cable in the mutant prisoner transfer scene. However, I haven't seen much of the actress's other work, so there isn't much I can say about how her acting supported the character. Now, with respect to the direction of the film, one thing I will say is that I really wasn't satisfied with the pacing of the movie. Near the beginning, it felt just a bit too slow, and then once Russell was introduced, it started speeding up almost uncontrollably to the point where I was honestly questioning how this movie had started out as a tragic story of losing a loved one to a lesson on how to properly handle prepubescent children with mutant abilities. And at some points, the storytelling didn't feel linear at all. It was difficult for me to try to invest in the stories of multiple characters, so I ended up paying more attention to Cable's backstory since it was told with the most visual details and emotion. Also, I understand that the whole skydiving scene with X-Force was an attempt to make the audience laugh, but I really do think the movie would have been fine without it. The only good things that came out of it were Peter and Domino, and even Peter's screen time was very short-lived because of his unfortunate death that even seemed a little bit out of place in a movie like Deadpool 2. Now, I don't have any particular issues with the level of gore that we witnessed when Peter died. I mean, this is an R-rated movie after all, but it all just happened so fast that the scene left me more confused and uncomfortable rather than entertained. But if there was one thing that I definitely loved about this film, one of my favorite things about Deadpool 2 was the musical score. I found it absolutely hilarious how dubstep would start playing whenever Deadpool and Cable fought each other. One, because Cable made it very clear how much he hates dubstep, and two, because I think this is definitely the kind of movie where you really need to have the perfect music to fit such amazing fight sequences. So obviously the same goes for that little pump song that was playing in the background as Colossus went toe-to-toe with Juggernaut. Man, I really don't think they could have picked better music for such a sick fight sequence. But I think the moment I really lost it in theaters was when the song Tomorrow started playing during Deadpool's slow motion sacrifice scene, because it took a moment that was supposed to be shocking and sad and turned it into something absolutely hilarious, almost as if the song was playing inside Deadpool's head as he heroically dived in front of Cable's last bullet. One thing that definitely stuck with me were the visual effects. I was actually quite impressed with the high quality level of visual effects throughout most of the movie. In fact, when Wade refers to Cable's mechanical arm as a Winter Soldier arm, that actually resonated with me as more of a compliment to the visual effects team as opposed to a simple jab at the MCU's adaptation of the Winter Soldier. With a shirt on, Cable's mechanical arm looks pretty realistic, and its movements were pretty similar to that of a human arm, so hats off to the efforts that went into making it look so good. Also, if it weren't for stunning visual effects, that true X-Men fanatics never would have gotten the version of Juggernaut that we finally got to experience in this movie. I mean, he was huge on screen, which is what most fans wanted to see in the first place, given his appearance in the comics. And then once again, there's that CGI fight scene near the end between Colossus and Juggernaut, which for me was one of the most incredible hand-to-hand fight sequences I've seen in any Marvel movie, especially since it was between two giant, overpowered freaks of nature. They really did not hold back with this scene. I mean, I winced just as hard as Colossus did when Juggernaut snapped his wrist like a freaking Kit Kat, and I absolutely loved how the CGI and motion capture managed to nail his expression of pain. Now, on a different note, there was definitely a mix of good and bad things about some of the dialogue between certain characters in the movie. Every exchange between Cable and Deadpool was downright hilarious, especially since their personalities are practically polar opposites, where Deadpool's always cracking jokes and being a jerk for the heck of it, while Cable takes himself and his mission very seriously and thinks Deadpool acts way too much like a man-child. However, I did kind of have a problem with some of the dialogue between Russell and Wade in their prison cell, particularly after the scene where Black Tom and his gang beat the pulp out of both of them. None of it felt natural, at least on Russell's part. I mean, at this point in the movie, he had just met Wade a few hours ago, and yet he's already talking like the two of them are best buddies. Nope. Sorry, it felt way too forced and just way too awkward. So from this point on, I'm going to be giving movies my own scores on a scale of 1 to 10. So with this review, I officially give Deadpool 2 a score of 7.8 out of 10. It was definitely a fun movie, accompanied with a lot of laughs, and I would recommend it to anyone who even remotely likes Marvel movies and wants to escape the depressing routine of everyday life for at least a couple hours. I also have to give a lot of credit to David Leitch, because his handiwork is pretty obvious in a lot of the really impressive stunts performed throughout the movie. Unfortunately, Deadpool 2 did not live up to the hype of its marketing campaign, and at several points it was just too complex for me to follow. Anyway, that being said, I definitely want to hear your thoughts on the movie in the comments below and whether or not you agree with my overall rating. 2 weeks from today, I'll be releasing my complete spoiler review of Solo, so if you want to check that out and other videos like this in the future, please make sure to hit that subscribe button on your way out. And of course, if you liked what I had to say about Deadpool 2, please leave a like below. So, that's all for now, and I will see you all in the next video. Keep it real, guys.